everyone, welcome back to Maximum Octane. Once again, we are still in Orlando at the Hyatt Regency at Super Conference. We're actually still on day one.
This is day one.
It feels like already.
It absolutely does. There's been so much to do and so much content that we've gotten to learn. It's been absolutely amazing.
So you actually just came out of that first speaker session.
Yes.
And we'll get to that a little bit in today's podcast, but let me introduce you to Lindsay Kvasnik from Rosebud Consulting HR.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yes, you did. You did.
Oh,
Thank
man.
you.
That last name, that
It's
is
a
a
mouthful.
doozy.
I
That is-
know.
My goodness.
I know. It's a big last name,
Right.
definitely.
From
It's
Kvasnik.
actually a Russian last name,
Okay.
and in Russian it means beer maker. So
What?
yes, it does. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Look at that.
definitely.
Awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Lindsay, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Give us a little bit of the background, the 411. What brings you
Yeah.
to Super Conference?
Definitely. So first and foremost, thank you so much for having me. I'm
Of
so
course.
excited to be here. My name is Lindsay Kvasnik. I own Rosebud Consulting HR. I come with 17 years of HR experience. I've done the entire gamut of HR, all the way from recruiting, coordinating, managing, and now owning my own consulting firm. So I'm almost to year 2 in my consulting firm, which is really
Congrats.
amazing. Thank you so
Yes.
much. It's been really amazing. I started my firm because I thought that HR is a really misunderstood and misrepresented function. Everyone wants HR, but I think people come and they think that HR is the scary,
Right.
the scary function that you're like, oh, if HR calls you, stay away, right? Like it's not good when HR comes. And I really think that that is the stigma I wanted to break. There's so much that HR can do and that we do that helps an industry grow and build. We really are that ground floor, if you will. We are creating your processes and procedures. We're helping you build your culture. We're helping you, and culture is such a big word,
yeah.
but we're helping you build your culture. We're helping keep your people. If your people don't understand what they're doing day one,
Right.
they're not going to understand what they're doing
Yeah.
week one, year one,
Right.
and so on. And so really HR helps to create that foundation.
Well, it's one of the things. So I'm a tech first.
Yeah.
So fully just in the automotive industry my whole entire life, pretty much. We need HR
Yeah.
in a lot of these shops.
For sure.
Not just from the just the regular aspect of the stigma that HR is associated with, right? Some of the kind of the I wouldn't say harassment. I would say more just kind of colorful language. The way that the culture is or has been kind of associated and the stigma that comes with it. HR is a very important factor in any business that wants to grow.
Absolutely. I completely agree
Right.
with that. And I think too, something you said really resonated because every company and every shop is going to have their own sauce, right? Their own secret
100%.
sauce that makes them tick. And so I don't think that HR should ever come in there and make it rigid and make it, cookie cutter. Really, you're coming in there. And why I use the word culture is that you're coming in there so that you can enhance either what you already have or help build upon kind of that vision. What I love to do is come in and allow that business owner to become that visionary so that they can step away from the day to day
Right.
and be able to really kind of help build what was kind of in their head, if you will.
Definitely. Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But you're not necessarily you didn't start off in the automotive space.
No, I did not. I
Okay.
started off actually in SEO.
Oh.
So that was kind of my very first taste of
Right.
HR. And when I started doing my own consulting, I ended up really thinking, I don't care about the industry because I can do HR anywhere.
Right.
I care about the people that I'm working with. And so I got to connect with an amazing auto shop owner. His name is Austin Lutz.
Oh,
And he owns,
BAM.
yes,
Bam.
Bam,
Automotive.
Bam Automotive. And Austin is an incredible visionary. He really cares about not just the bottom line, but he cares about his people and he cares about what he's projecting into the universe. And that's what I want to be a part of.
That's
So
amazing.
for me, I really care about what can I do to help build upon what those companies or what those business owners already have
Right.
and to amplify it, make it better, make it
That's
stronger.
and
Yeah.
that really is what every business really needs is we have to figure out what's good about your business. Let's double down on that. Let's
Yep.
continue building upon that. But then let's see, where are some of the opportunities, where are some of the vulnerabilities. And I think
Yes.
that's one of the big ones that a lot of businesses really, they don't analyze that, right? It's like it doesn't show itself,
Yep.
so it's not a problem yet.
Yep. That's such a key point. It's not a problem yet.
Right.
I see so many businesses that are like, "Oh my gosh, hair's on fire. Everything's falling apart and now I need you."
Right.
I want to be there so that we don't ever get to that point, right? Every company should have a handbook. Every company should have policies and procedures. But if there is nobody implementing that or nobody looking at that and saying, "Why? Why are we doing these things? Why is this even important?" Right? Then there is no reason to have any of those things, right? Then a lot of like what the speaker we just had, Jim Knight, he talked a lot about like, where's your true north? Where is everybody going? If you don't have all of your people going in the same direction, then you are no better than when you opened your doors the very first day.
So here's kind of, I want to give our viewers and listeners
Yeah.
some real strategies or something that they can take away from today's podcast that they can really start doing something with if they're not already doing it, or something better, right? So most of our audience is going to be in the automotive space, but this podcast is open to pretty much the entire public. So you work with a lot of businesses in all kinds of different industries. What are the top three things that you are seeing right now that is a must have or must do?
Oh, I love that question. I think first and foremost is that you need to have a plan. You need to 100% know where you are going and what you're trying to get to. Because if you don't know, then what are we building?
So
Right?
would you say this is more in a like a 6 months to a year? Are we talking 5, 10 years? Or are we talking just in general the direction of the business?
I think that we need to know. I think it's easier to take things in smaller bits. And so that's first 6 months, okay, now we know what we're doing. We can have a plan of 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and I think you absolutely should because those are really important to know what are you striving for. But then break it down even smaller. Look at those like what are we going to do in 3 months? What are we
Okay.
going to do in 6 months? And how are we going to grow? And what are those milestone markers that we're hitting? And if we're not, is it that we're doing something in the business that we need to change, or do we need to change our goals?
Right.
Right? Like we can set out these big, audacious, hairy goals,
Of
right?
course.
But if they don't make sense or they're not working, we need to reevaluate and think, what are we actually doing and how are we going to get there? And then if we're not getting there, look at why we're not getting there.
So number one, we're pretty much starting out with, obviously, where are we going? I
Where are
mean,
we going?
yeah. If we
Yeah.
if we don't know
What are
that,
we
obviously
doing?
it's gonna be hard to do anything else, right? So
Exactly.
what would you say number two would be?
I'm a huge policy and procedure person.
Okay.
So I do believe that there needs to be true guidelines of how you want your shop, your company, your business, all of those things to run. But also in that same breath, be okay with little bends in those. Not saying that it should be exactly like if your policy is X, it should always be X. But know that you are going to have individuals that will take those differently and make sure that you are okay with that.
Right.
And that if you're not, you're making sure to kind of treat that with kid gloves and say, hey, we're doing this. And,
Right.
making sure that they still understand it, but keeping true to that individual as well.
So kind of like what you said, right? This is why number one was, where are we going? Because if you can't get your team to buy in to where are we going,
Right.
if you try to implement policies, procedures, you're already behind the eight ball,
I thought,
right?
yes,
Because
100%.
now, like, there's already friction starting, and now
Yep.
it just gets amplified when we're trying to make changes. Now, this also, I like how you brought. There's got to be a little bit of flex to it.
Yeah.
What comes to my mind is like speed limits,
Yeah.
right? A speed limit technically
Yep.
supposed to be. I mean, if it says 65, I mean, you want to
You
be
could
at
do 67. You could do
at
You
65.
should be at 65.
Right. And you know what? I never go over the speed limit.
Wow.
And rules are meant to be broken. I've heard that quite a
Yep.
few times. But one thing that I've seen happen time and time again, especially in shops, is that, hey, this technician came in a couple minutes late. Our policy is our team meeting starts at 8 o'clock. technician rolled in at 8:02. Now we're already starting to feel a certain way. Hey, that's against policy, or we're not necessarily there. There has to be some sort of a progression here,
Yeah.
right? Now, if they're coming in 8:02, 8:03, 8:05 every single day,
Right.
now there's a pattern. We've
Now
got a
there's an
problem.
issue. Right. Exactly.
So when does something when do you start really falling into some of these guidelines where we start taking away some of that bend and some of that flex? At what point is the turning point there?
I think that's such an open-ended question that I
Okay.
don't know if I can answer it, but I think it's when it just starts to disrupt your apple cart. When
Okay.
other individuals, like when you have one bad apple and then that bad apple turns all the other apples bad. And so I think that when you have something or someone, I apologize,
Yes.
that is really upsetting your apple cart or that is really kind of tainting the waters,
Right.
then that's when it becomes a problem. Because if everybody comes in at 8:02 and the expectation is 8, then
Right.
why do we have that expectation? And that's what it is. So if I see my other colleague, they're coming in all the time late, so I'm like, I can come in late too. So it's really when it starts to upset your apple cart, that's when I think it becomes a problem and you have to rein people back.
And this is a great point because I see this a lot with a lot of the shops that I coach and shop owners I talk to. I try to get them to think about it this way, where there is how you say things, even
Mhm.
if it's a policy that's in place. If you gave someone a policy, here's our handbook,
Yep.
read it, and just sign it at the bottom.
And then they forget about it.
They are
Yeah.
not looking at it. All
No.
right. So this goes back to one of the phrases I like to use is, was it a suggestion that you gave or was it an expectation? Right?
Yeah.
Because it's so easy. Like, hey, would you mind coming in at 8 a.m. sharp?
Right.
We need to be here at 8 a.m. sharp so that we can do this. Or this is
Yep.
why, right? We're giving them the why, but it's not a
Absolutely.
suggestion anymore.
Yes,
We're
absolutely.
expecting you to be here at 8.
Absolutely. And I think that that is so key because if you do set that expectation, I think that people will feel that, right? They'll be like,
Right.
"Oh, I have to be here at 8 because that's what's expected of me, and I wanna do what's right." People instinctively want to do what's right.
Right.
Yeah, so 100%, if they wanna do what's right, they're gonna come in at 8 o'clock. The people that don't, they're gonna fall off.
Exactly.
They're just
Right.
gonna fall off, and that is human nature.
Right. And you're going to identify that once you start implementing policies, procedures, and especially new ones, even if it is just a what we were already doing and it was happening organically, but now we put an actual policy or a procedure in
Mhm.
place. Now it feels like, oh, okay, now it's actually real.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like you said, the people that want to do the right thing and they want to be there, they've bought into the vision, whatever the case might be, they're going to do it and they want to do it.
Right. Yeah,
So
exactly.
we're all in the same spot there. And with
Yeah.
that being said, what do you think number three is?
So, I know this word is overused a lot,
Yes.
but it is so important, and that is culture.
Okay.
I think that you need to stay true to why you opened your doors in the first place. And that is what brings your culture. And I think that that starts from the very top, but that is then implemented every single day from the top and goes to the bottom. And then in turn, that comes from the bottom and goes back to the top. And so I think that it is sort of that
It's
um,
like a rose.
yeah, it is like a rose, right? Exactly, like a rose. And it's interesting you say that because really the reason I named my company Rosebud Consulting, my middle name is Rose, but
Oh,
really it was because a rose blooms and it starts as a bud and then it blooms. And that's what I hope to be able to do with these companies is really start them, not that they're all starting as buds, right? Not 100%, but, or, not that that's what
right.
it is, but that I want to take what they have that's working and that's amazing and help it grow even
That's
more.
amazing.
And to the opposite, right? Things that aren't working, help them to be able to take away their thorns. And so that to me is really important is your company culture. I don't want to come in and change anything unless you want that, right? I
Yeah.
want to come in and help build upon what you already have and that secret sauce and what makes you you. That's what I want to help grow
And
and
that's
build.
one of the things that I think a lot of people forget about. And I'm glad you brought it up is why did you start this to begin with? Because starting a business is not easy.
It is not
Well,
easy. Being an
actually,
entrepreneur is
right.
tough.
Well, let me
Yeah.
say that. Starting a business is pretty easy. Anybody can
Yeah,
go out there and
anybody
start.
can sign up on an LLC
Right.
or what have you.
Right. That part's easy.
Yes.
But everything else that comes after that first signature is where the getting gets tough.
Yeah.
Right. And the people that stick it out and you've already hired people, you've got people depending on you, depending on the business, you're no longer just working for what you started initially. Now you've built something that is growing. It's a living, breathing thing. You've got families that are being supported by it, and you're also providing, whether it's a product, service, doesn't matter, to the masses. So it's a lot bigger than a lot of people make it out to be, and people kind of get stuck in just their day to day stuff. They're not really thinking about the big picture. Now, with that being said, the reason that you started your business, it's that's never going to change.
Right.
But what can change is what you want your business to do moving forward.
Right.
And like you said, the culture aspect of this, it evolves. And what will happen is if your culture is good internally, it shows externally with
Right.
everything.
That's so, so true. And what you said actually resonates is that you said that it evolves. What I thought my business was going to be 2 years ago is not what it
Right.
is today. And in such a meaningful, great way, right? I think everybody's like, oh, I'm going to open a business. I'm going to start this big thing. And then they're like, okay, now what? Like, you kind of think it's going to be, at least I'm going to be totally vulnerable and honest. When I opened my business, I thought it was going to be like a Sims game, like you open the business and all of a sudden all the people
Everybody's
are
there.
coming and you're like, and I opened it and I'm like, where are the people? Where are they? And it's not. It's really what I bring to the table and what I'm presenting and giving every single day is what's bringing the people. And it's a lot of work and it's a lot of grit. It's a lot of highs and a lot of lows. But I wouldn't have it any other way because I am getting to work with customers that I want to. I'm getting to build, and I know that my wins are mine and my failures are mine. And only I can learn from that and I can grow from that. And that to me is invaluable.
100%. And I mean, this is one of the things where I've got this thing with every podcast that we've been doing for the last few months.
Yeah.
I have to bring up AI, otherwise the podcast is not complete. Okay.
Fair,
Now,
totally fair. We wouldn't be here without AI, I
right.
think.
And
It's
as
so key right now.
it is. And I think this is actually a very fitting time for anything HR related as well,
Yeah.
at least when we're talking about policies and procedures. I mean, there used to be a time where people just did not want to sit there and write out the policy, like what they
Perfect.
expect, how they
Yep.
want it done. If Kim was here, she'll be talking about how the sausage is made. They don't want to write all of that stuff
Yeah.
out. We're at a point now where you can pretty much create a policy or a procedure with snap of a finger, put a
Oh,
prompt,
right.
and you're good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that all the time.
What are your thoughts on some of the stuff that companies and businesses are putting out there or putting together using AI for policies and procedures?
I love that you brought that up because I hear all the time, I'll write my own job descriptions.
Okay.
I'll write my own handbook because I can do it in AI. Absolutely. Anybody can do that. But I have the training and the experience and that HR mind to be able to look at that and say, you're missing this. Or there's those critical nuances of things that you're like, oh, I didn't know that I have to have this in a job description. Otherwise, it's not a good job description. Or, there are state laws, right? Like
Right.
now in certain states, you have to include the salary. Otherwise, you can get in big trouble.
Oh,
And
on
so
the you're talking about on the
on the job
right,
descriptions, on the
right.
postings. And so there are little things that training and that experience brings that gives you that edge. And also, I think, yes, you can do it, but are you portraying it the way that is true to your company, right? We go back to that culture and we go back to that vision, right? That visionary. Does your job description really relay what you want people to know about your company? Honestly, you think of it, yes, it's a job ad, but there's a very big difference between a job ad and a job description.
100%.
And when you're looking at a job ad, that's your commercial. That's what you're putting out there for people to see. And in 1 second, they're going to decide whether they want to look at that company or not. And so that's where I come in to make sure that you are presenting your best self and everything you want that person to know about your company or about your job. And you're getting that first impression and that first chance.
So where does AI have a place for in the HR aspect? Where is AI's place, and where can business owners or whoever's in charge of that utilize that tool for the
Oh, I
best bang
think
for the buck?
AI has a huge place.
Okay.
I think that it is crucial and key because it does help us to grow on what we already have.
Okay.
And so I think we can use it as a tool and as a knowledge, like a fact, like a knowledge factor, I guess is a
Right.
good way to put it. But I don't think we should take it as Bible or as key, right? We want to make sure that we are still bringing in those experts, and because we can get in trouble, right? AI is not a lawyer. AI is not, they're not doctors. Well, they can diagnose things.
It can help,
It
right?
can
It's a
help,
tool.
but it is not, it's just words on a page. And so for me, I'm always looking at AI, and then you know how they give the websites? I'm always going to the website to make sure, is that even a credible website that is giving me that information? Or is it somebody who went on there and said, I think I know about X? So it's really making sure that, yes, we can use it as a knowledge
Okay.
base, but we can't use it as law.
So trust but verify.
Trust but verify.
That's what I'm
Yes.
hearing. Now, with that being said, what about like SOPs? So let's say, for example, clocking in. This is how we want you to clock in. Is that a policy or a procedure that AI could be utilized in a good fashion? Or, where, like, what are some examples? Give me some examples of where business owners should use AI to help them in the HR realm of things.
Yeah, I think that AI can be used for sure for some SOPs.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
SOPs.
SOPs are huge. I think too, when you're in a situation and you're like, oh, like I'm having this situation and I don't have an HR person. Well, hopefully you will soon.
Right. Right.
And I don't have an HR person. Have there been other people out there that have gone through the same experience? And how can I learn from that? Right. And I think that that's what AI is really great for, is it's just accumulation
Right.
of
Of everything that's already
everybody.
out there.
Yes,
Yeah.
everything that's already out there, and it's compacting it in that 2 seconds
Right.
and spitting out all of those answers. So I think it's a really great way for us to use as a learning and knowledge tool to be able to say, okay, I can't be the only one who's experiencing this.
Right.
Are there others, and how did they handle it? So I think it's a really great way for us to be able to look at and also not feel alone, right?
Right.
Not feel like you're the only one who's experienced certain
That's
situations.
that's so true. I mean, this is one of
Yeah.
the things that I think a lot of shop owners and business owners in general, they feel like no one else is in that situation. It's this is my area and this is my people and this is kind of my problem. Nobody else could possibly have that same scenario, same
Yes.
situation.
Yes.
But the more that you talk to other entrepreneurs, business owners,
Mhm.
somehow it feels like we're all the same people.
Right.
We're facing the similar challenges.
Right.
Yeah, there might be different details associated with it. I think, like you said, that's where AI can definitely help kind of expose you to some of that. Now, I do want to ask you a question because obviously you see a lot of this stuff in different industries. Have you seen some, I wouldn't say bad things, but some things that are probably not right that AI has, that some shops or some businesses already have in place from AI that they utilize to create? Have you seen some bad
Oh,
things there?
not, I mean, bad, I think, is a relative term, but
Okay.
yes, I've seen some things there where I'm like, "Ooh, that is not right."
Yeah.
Like, that is definitely bad information, and
Okay.
that's why I go back to check the website. Check where you're getting that information. If you're looking up a policy for a state law and it's coming from some, off-brand website and it's not coming from that government website, look at where you're getting it and don't always trust the top search, right?
Right.
The top piece of information that comes out, it's the same thing when you're Googling something, right? It's the same thing. You
Right.
want to make sure that you are absolutely looking at where you are getting that information, even if it comes from AI. AI is not a brain, it is a generated website that just
Right.
is compiling a bunch of information.
That is so true,
So,
and I mean, it's your information is only as good as the source at the end of the day,
yep, 100%.
right? And
Yes.
so for Rosebud Consulting HR, right? For
Yes.
example, you guys are able to kind of work with all 48, 50 states. What's
Yeah,
kind of
so
the
I'm
realm?
in I'm able to service all 50 states.
Okay,
So that's been really amazing, is to be able to not, I'm based in Minnesota, so I'm a born and raised Minnesotan.
there we go.
Yes, so strong Vikings, Wolves fan.
Oh,
Yes, it's really hard to be a Minnesota fan, but I'm
well, hey,
here. I'm living it every day. I'm able to service all 50 states, but what I love is that I'm able to learn about all of the different inner nuances of each state, because each state is so different and each state is run differently. And what's acceptable in each state is
okay,
different. And so that's been very, very cool. And just to meet people. I
right,
love to
right,
meet new people and to learn about different cultures and different companies and how they run. And one thing that I think I said already, but I really want to hone in on and stress, is that every company is its own unique butterfly,
It
right?
is.
And you want to treat them as such. I don't want to come in and change anything that you're doing if it's working,
Of
right?
course. We want to
And
amplify it, make it better.
right, 100%. I want to amplify, I want to make it better, and I want to always stick to what is your secret sauce. And
Yeah.
so I take a lot of time to make sure that my clients know that I know why they run the way they run, why they do the things they do, and what makes them important and what makes them special. And that then I think translates into not only how their company runs, but how their individuals, their
Of
employees
course.
work. And then that translates to customers and
Right.
that translates to sales.
That is so true. And it goes back to what we discussed earlier. If your internal team is on board with everything, they love to be there, it's going to show externally, and it makes sure that everybody wins and everybody enjoys being there.
Right.
Now, I also want people to think about it this way. You spend more time with your coworkers and your
Yeah,
work life than you do outside of it.
which is insane, but it is absolutely true. And you want to make sure that those are individuals you
Yes.
want to spend time with. I mean, obviously, we all have those family members we don't want to
Right,
spend the
right,
time with.
right.
But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you are spending the
Yes.
time with the individuals that you want to spend time with and that you're putting your efforts into them and making sure that they are growing in a meaningful way the exact same way that as a mother I want to make sure that my kids are growing
Of
in a
course.
meaningful way. And so not that I look at my employees as my kids, but I'm looking at them as individuals that I really truly care about and that I want to see succeed because I want to succeed so that they succeed.
And that's exactly true, right? If
Right.
they're winning, that means you're winning,
Right.
and that also means that whoever they're servicing, their customers or product buyers, whatever, they're all succeeding at the end of the day.
Right.
I do want to ask you a fun question.
Yeah, I love fun
Let's
questions.
What is something that's a little weird in, like, maybe it's just a off law somewhere in one weird state or something like that? Something HR that's like a fun fact, like something that our viewers or listeners can have, like a dad joke or something, just something that people probably don't know. There's got to be something in there. Any quirky laws?
There are a lot of quirky laws. I can't think of one off the top of my
Oh,
head. I'm
well,
so bummed. That was such a good question, and I don't
if you
know.
think of one,
Yes, I'm gonna
send
let
it
you
over
know.
to us. We'll
Yes,
put it in the description down
yes,
below. But
absolutely. That was such a good question. I'm
hey,
bummed I don't know the answer.
that's not a problem. Now, with that being said, though, is there anything that you want to leave the viewers and listeners with today?
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter if you are a small company or if you have 8,000 employees. Everybody can use HR because everybody started their business for a reason. Everybody wants to grow in a meaningful way. And just because you work for your family or just because, oh, I only have 3 people, I don't need HR. Sometimes that's when you need it the most. And I truly, truly believe that I personally service small to mid-sized companies. That's my sweet spot. But I did that intentionally because I think that it is so important because sometimes I think those small to mid-sized companies do have that mindset. I don't need it. I've been doing this for 35 years and it works, right? And it doesn't, right? You need to have that foundation. And actually, to quote Jim Knight, he said something really amazing and I loved it. And he said, if it's not broken, break it. And I
Oh,
loved that. I thought that was so colorful in the sense that, yes, like, why are we doing something the exact same way we did it 35 years ago? Because it may not work the same way, and you may not attract the talent that you want, or the individuals are not going to work for you because they're like, oh, this is stale, this is boring. So break it,
yeah.
upset your
We
apple
shouldn't be
cart.
afraid.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
like you said, if we do break it and you're able to improve,
Yeah.
just because something's working doesn't mean that it's working the best that it could.
Or it doesn't mean it's right, right?
Correct.
Doesn't mean that that's the best way to do it. And so I think that that is something for me, if I could leave anybody with anything, is that it doesn't matter how many years you've been in business,
Right.
how many employees that you have, what your revenue is. Everybody can use a strong foundation and everybody can use a individual that is in your corner, making sure that you are doing things the right way. And I
Definitely.
say right way meaningfully, meaning lawfully
Right.
and, the best of your for the best intentions of your company.
Right. Let's not be vulnerable if we don't have to be.
100%. Let's not be vulnerable if we don't have to be.
Now, with that being said, there is one challenge I want to put out there. Any business owner, shop owner, or if you're an employee of, a business that you work at, I encourage you and I challenge you to ask your people what they think the secret sauce is for your organization. I think a lot of people will be surprised because what you might think the secret sauce is might not be exactly what the people that are working with you or for you think the secret sauce
So
is.
true.
Right.
I do really love that. I
Yeah.
think that's a great thing to say.
And then this helps you curate. It'll make either it might be better or it might not be as good as you thought it was.
Right,
So,
exactly. And you want to make sure all your people are going in the
right.
right direction,
Right.
in the same direction.
Exactly. Well, hey, it was a pleasure having you
Thank
on
you
here.
so much for having me.
Of
This was so
course.
fun. And I really enjoyed speaking with you and
Same
sharing
here.
a little bit about HR.
Right, right.
Yes.
Well, thank you all for tuning in. And as Kim always says, stay safe and make good choices. We will see you guys in the next episode.